Zenless Zone Zero is finally out on all platforms, PC, mobile, and PlayStation 5. This video will be fixated on the PS5 version of the game. Since this is my second analysis of Zenless Zone Zero on my channel for PS5, I will not have a frequently asked questions section for this video. However, you are very welcome to ask questions that can be answered in the future analysis video for the 1.1 update of the game. I will also do my very best to reply to every comment on this video, assuming YouTube doesn't hide them. So make sure not to use any synonyms for poop because that triggers their automatic comment removal system. Stay tuned and watch the whole video or skip straight to your desired chapter by using the timestamps. As I promised with my beta analysis, I will be starting this video off with a comparison between the beta's launch and load times with the final release's launch and load times. The beta version is on the left and the launch version is on the right. Both clips have been synchronized in post, but otherwise have been left unedited. To save your time, since this is one of the slowest load tests I've done, I've sped up the synchronized clips by 2x. But the results displayed are still the original real-time results. The results displayed will be in seconds and 60ths of a second. The release version of this game is already not off to a great start. I thought the load times launching into the game for the beta were on the longer side, and I almost certainly thought it would improve upon release, but it seems like I was wrong to expect that. At least going from the game menu to the game is not awfully slow. The game took 37GB while in beta, but now takes 52.57GB on release. It grew by 15.57GB, which seems reasonable considering the final version has cutscenes, dialogue, and missions that were not in the beta version of the chapters I played. The PC version takes 57.1GB, so if we assume both versions have identical assets, that means that Sony's Kraken compression system shrunk the game by 8%. While I can't take a peek at the exact storage contents of the PS5 version, I can tell you how it is on PC. For the audio dub, CN takes 595MB, N takes 605MB, JP takes 761MB, and Korean takes 690MB as of the launch version of the game. Now for the pre-rendered cutscenes in the game. The whole HD video folder takes 12.3GB. That is about 21% of the game's total size on PC being exclusively cutscenes, and pre-rendered ones at that. It would be nice if HoYoverse could offer people the option to run cutscenes in real time like with that Ito concert event in Genshin, but I fear that the amount of potato devices out there is the reason why we all have to suffer through huge download sizes to allow all users to experience the same level of cutscene quality. Also, some performance issues that still linger in the final release for PS5 might also mean real-time cutscenes of a decent caliber might actually be impossible at 60 frames per second. Heck, even 30 might be asking too much. You'll see why once we get to the combat clips in this performance review. On PS5, the game appears to run at a native 4K with some heavy post-processing at a target frame rate of 60 frames per second. You can see here in these comparison screenshots that the PS5 matches the game at 4K maxed out on PC, and not the 1440p version, which is also maxed out. Oddly, VSync is forced on in this HoYoverse title for PS5 and cannot be currently turned off like in Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail. The only visual aspect of the PS5 version that appears to be toned down from the PC version is the reflections. In this side-by-side comparison, you can see that the PC version, which is maxed out, has more noticeable reflections in this particular stage than the PS5 version has. The PS5 and PC share the same quality of cube map reflections, but screen space reflections are toned down on a case-by-case basis on PS5. In some areas like 6th Street, the reflections are all identical on both platforms, but in areas like this stage, once again, it appears HoYoverse did choose to opt out of higher quality reflections to help improve performance. The reflections are not entirely disabled, but appear to likely be the medium option. In my 17 hours of testing the game on PS5, I've noticed a few instances where the game might be using a similar dynamic resolution scaling technique as Honkai Star Rail, but just like with that game, it fails to make an impact to improve the performance of the game. There is also a solid chance that similar to Honkai Star Rail that the random aliasing and chunky look to some pixels might be due to the TAA anti-aliasing solution failing to do its job, due to the lower than average frame rate preventing it from having enough frame data to anti-alias properly. In the beta, the performance on PS5 was quite jarring. The hub areas had frequent and long stutter issues, and the combat with flashy characters could also bring the game, or rather the PS5, to its knees. In its release version, the hub areas are nearly squeaky clean and fixed. There is still the occasional hitch as seen in the compilation of clips on screen, but it is so much better than what technical test players had to deal with. The combat, on the other hand, is unfortunately super similar to how it performed in the beta, if not somehow worse. I never had the luck to obtain Ellen on the PS5's technical test, so my only footage of her from back then is from her character trial, but I have her now on the release version. If featured characters will continue to be as flashy as Ellen, then I think we might be in for a very rocky framerate future for the PS5 version of Zenless Zone Zero. I'm gonna stop talking for a bit so you can see a few full-size combat clips for yourself with the FPS graphs enabled. If you wish to jump straight to my conclusion, you can.
You don't have what it takes! Over here! This ought to do it! Your service. Sokaku is here! Help is here! I'll take over, Karin. Troublesome. Get back. Sick. I'm happy to be of service. Shark Nami!
Warning. Enemy target identified. Fundamentally, wanted zone cancer. According to the public security database, this target is a high priority secret. Will need to be
I'll take you.
Better buckle up!
What are you waiting for? To catch a bullet?
Why don't you have a taste of my blood? Pedal to the metal! Buckle up! Good thing I dozed off. Coming through!
take over, better die.
Yep.
Avoid it. Yep. Out of the way.
What are you waiting for? To catch a bullet?
It's no good surrendering.
Silly time!
Okay. I'll take my shot. Tiny, watch this.
An opening.
My bullets never lose sight of their target. What are you waiting for? To catch a bullet?
Neat and tidy.
Watch out.
My bullets never lose sight of their target.
It's no good surrendering. Gotta run. Get it.
They're close.
What are you waiting for? To catch a bullet?
Neat and tidy.
An opening.
Zenless Zone Zero is an incredibly fun game. When the performance isn't an issue, the game feels absolutely amazing. But on PS5, the performance situation is quite disappointing. The load times are unfortunately a tad worse than the technical test, and so are the frame rate issues. Thankfully, the hub areas at least perform a lot better than they did back then, because that would have fully made the technical test period pointless on PS5. With the state the game is currently in, I worry it may suffer from the same fate as Honkai Star Rail on PS5, which also performs quite awfully. Hopefully players of Zenless Zone Zero on PS5 aren't as blind to the issues as Honkai Star Rail players are, because I have gotten downvoted to oblivion for even mentioning the performance problems in that game for PlayStation 5 on Reddit. I fully understand the love for HoYoverse titles because they're all great in their own ways, but I do think players need to stop allowing games to keep releasing in states like this. Yes, we do live in the era of patches and hotfixes, but clearly that isn't helping Honkai Star Rail. So we need to be more proactive about this with Zenless Zone Zero. I can excuse the occasional drop in Genshin Impact because it typically always stays within the PS5's VRR window, which has its lower bound set to 48 FPS. But Zenless Zone Zero joins the club that Honkai Star Rail is in, which is the not suitable for VRR club on PlayStation 5. This reminds me, I think it's time to bring me from the past back for a quick thought. If the rumored semi-confirmed release date of July 3rd is correct, I hope that is exclusively for PC and mobile. I personally think the PS5 version needs much more time in the oven, because I do not want to play the game's campaign or the game at all in this poorly performant state in an official way. Remember that? I was worried this whole scenario might happen if the game had a simultaneous launch on all platforms, and sadly I was correct. While the PC and mobile versions are damn near perfect, the PS5 version is barely even a step above its technical test form. While the game does not have any game-breaking bugs, just some weird flickering with character models, it does have some rather irritating frame rate issues that are incredibly hard to ignore, especially with the dodging and parrying mechanics in this game. Hopefully this doesn't count as terms of service violating, but I highly recommend and ask all of the viewers of this video to write in feedback to HoYoverse with the in-game survey to make them aware of how widespread these performance issues are on PS5. I've notified HoYoverse myself this way and asked them to please look into these issues. Hopefully we will see some major improvements in the next version release. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll stick around for my coverage of Genshin Impact's 4.8 update and Zenless Zone Zero's 1.1 update. Please subscribe, leave a like, and feel free to drop a comment if you have anything to say or ask.